They said wolves never kneel. But here I am, tasting dirt, blood, and shame. The taste of iron spread across my tongue as I bit down on my cracked lip, trying to hold back the trembling. The rough stones beneath my knees dug deep, scraping through the thin fabric of my pants, as if the ground itself wanted to leave its mark on me. My palms were raw where I'd tried to break my fall, bloody smudges on gray stone. Around me, the pack formed a silent, unfeeling circle. Faces I'd known all my life stared down at me, some with disgust, others with blank indifference. Not one hand reached out. Not one voice spoke for me. And towering above them all was Kaiden, our Alpha. My Alpha. His silhouette cut the dying light, broad shoulders framed by the blood-red sky as the sun dipped behind the pines. Shadows from the trees stretched out like claws toward me, as if nature itself mirrored his dominance. His eyes, cold, glacial, bore into me, stripping me of what little pride I had left. How had I ever thought those eyes were noble? "Remember this, Sophie," Kaiden said, voice smooth like a blade drawn across skin. "You exist because I allow it. You breathe because I have not yet taken your last breath from you." I clenched my jaw until my teeth ached, but I said nothing. The pack watched, waiting for my submission. I gave them what they wanted. For now. I lowered my gaze, staring at the blood dripping from my chin onto the stone. How did it come to this? From the corner of my eye, I saw Liam. His familiar face, the boy I'd shared my childhood with. The boy who once promised to protect me from nightmares. Now he stood behind Kaiden, silent, his hands clenched at his sides, his eyes dark with guilt. But guilt didn't stop him from standing there. Guilt didn't make him speak. I had loved him. I think part of me still did, and that part hated him most of all in this moment. Once, I believed in heroes. Once, I believed Kaiden was one. When I was small, I'd look up at him as he led the pack on hunts, his fur glistening silver in the moonlight, the others following without question. He was strength. He was what we were meant to be. And Liam was my light. We were inseparable, two pups exploring the woods, daring each other to climb higher, run faster, dream bigger. He'd hold my hand when I was scared, promise me that no one would ever hurt me. "Liar. Rise," Kaiden commanded at last. But I didn't. I stayed on my knees, not from obedience, but because my legs wouldn't stop shaking. I hated that weakness. I hated the way my body betrayed me, the way my pride was nothing but ash in my mouth. Kaiden stepped closer. His boots stopped inches from my fingers. "You think you're strong, Sophie? Is that it? You think your father's blood gives you some right to challenge me?" My father. The name I wasn't allowed to speak. The Alpha before Kaiden. The one who died in battle. At least that was the story told to pups. I wasn't a pup anymore. I wasn't blind. Kaiden crouched so we were eye to eye. His breath smelled of wine and power. "Your father was weak, just like you. And I crushed him. Just like I'll crush any hope you still cling to." My heart hammered in my chest, but I forced myself to meet his gaze. "If you're going to break me, you'll have to look me in the eye when you do it." He stared at me for a long, tense moment. Then, as if bored, he stood and turned his back. "Let this be a lesson to all of you," he called to the pack. "There is no room for rebellion here. There is no room for wolves who forget their place." The crowd began to disperse. I stayed where I was, breathing hard, tasting blood and dirt. Liam lingered, hesitating as if he might come to me. But then I saw it. The flicker of fear when Kaiden glanced over his shoulder at him, and Liam looked away. That was when I made my vow, never again. I will never kneel before him, or any of them, again. One day, Kaiden will taste this same dirt, this same shame, and I'll be the one who puts him there. The sky darkened as the last light fled, and I rose slowly, the pain in my knees sharp, grounding me. The forest watched, silent witness to my disgrace. But the forest would also witness what came next. The path to my cabin felt longer that night, every step heavy with the weight of what had just happened. My knees still ached from the stone, and the chill of the forest crept through my torn clothes. The trees whispered above me, as if the whole world had witnessed my humiliation, and now murmured about it behind my back. The cabin loomed at the edge of the woods, a crooked, forgotten little thing with a sagging roof and walls patched with whatever scraps I could find. The place reeked of old wood and damp earth, but it was mine, or as much mine as anything in this life could be. I pushed open the door, the hinges groaning in protest. Inside, the single lantern flickered weakly, casting long, lonely shadows against the cracked walls. "Sophie?" The voice was soft, trembling. "Mara." She stood near the hearth, small and slight, her hands fidgeting with the hem of her worn tunic. Her wide brown eyes were full of worry, the kind that weighed down the soul. I didn't see, but they said, "You don't have to say it," I cut her off gently, sinking onto the edge of the low bed. My body throbbed, but it was my heart that hurt the most. Mara hovered near me, uncertain, like she wanted to help but didn't know how. "You shouldn't have defied him. Sophie, he's the Alpha. What choice do we have?" I looked up at her. Sweet, loyal Mara, always so careful, always so afraid. She didn't understand, or maybe she did, and fear kept her from admitting it. "I didn't defy him," I said quietly, though the bitterness in my voice betrayed me. "Not really. I didn't kneel fast enough." She lowered her gaze. "Please, Sophie, you can't keep drawing attention to yourself like this. He'll destroy you, and I don't want to lose you too." Her words stung more than she meant them to. Lose me too. Like my parents, like every shred of safety I ever had. I forced a smile for her sake. "I'll be careful," but as I said it, my ears caught the distant sound of drums, laughter, music, the celebration. I moved to the small window, pushing aside the tattered curtain. From this edge of the territory, the main clearing was just a scatter of lights through the trees, but I knew what they were. Torches, bonfires, and beyond them, the pack reveling in joy, reveling in their joy. I could almost see it. Liam standing tall beside Elora, his hand in hers. Elora's golden hair shining in the firelight, her smile sharp and victorious. Liam's expression. I didn't want to imagine it, but my mind betrayed me, painting him with pride and happiness. Mara joined me at the window. She followed my gaze and flinched. "I'm sorry, Sophie." I shook my head. "Don't be. It was always going to end like this." But that was a lie. I dreamed, foolishly, that somehow Liam would choose differently. That the boy who once swore he'd never let me fall would stand by me now. Instead, he'd chosen the Alpha's daughter. The safe path. The path that secured his place. The laughter echoed louder, as if mocking me. The music beat like a drum against my ribs, each note a reminder of everything I'd lost, or maybe never had to begin with. "I'm not angry at him," I said aloud, though the words felt sour. "I'm angry at myself, for believing, for waiting, for hoping." Mara touched my arm, gentle as always. "Maybe things will change. Maybe—" "No," I cut in, my voice firm. Stronger than I expected. "Nothing changes unless I change it." I turned from the window, the lights of the festival burning into my memory. A reminder. A promise. "I won't be a pawn in their games anymore, Mara." She looked at me, fear and admiration mingling in her gaze. "Just be careful." I nodded, though in my heart I knew careful had never won anyone freedom. Outside, the moon struggled to break through the clouds, casting faint silver across the forest. The lantern's glow flickered low, as if it too was weary of pretending everything was fine. And in the quiet of my broken little home, I made my second vow that night. Let them laugh now. Let them celebrate. Soon enough, they'll see the mask slip, and they'll learn what I really am. The night air was thick with the scent of pine and damp earth as I crept through the trees, my footsteps soft on the forest floor. Above, the wind sighed through the branches, carrying with it the faint crackle of torches and the murmur of voices. The elders' territory lay ahead, their homes rising like dark hulks among the trees. Massive wooden structures carved with the snarling faces of wolves, their eyes hollow and watching. I kept to the shadows, every nerve on edge, every muscle tense. I shouldn't be here. I knew that. But I couldn't stop myself. Not after what I'd seen. Not after the vow I'd made. The pack was blind. They saw only what Kaiden wanted them to see. But tonight, I would open my eyes, no matter the cost. I moved between the trees, keeping low, until I reached the largest of the houses. 2 torches flanked the entrance, their flames dancing in the breeze, casting wild shapes across the carved wood. The shadows seemed to come alive, wolves leaping and snapping along the walls. My heart pounded so loud I was sure someone would hear it. I pressed myself against the outer wall, inching along until I found the window, just a crack where the shutters hadn't been closed tight. Voices. Clearer now. I held my breath and listened. Ronan's been too quiet. It's the perfect time, came Kaiden's voice, low and confident, that same voice that had ordered me to kneel. That same voice that still echoed in my ears, dripping with contempt. There's no proof he means us harm, said one of the elders. I couldn't tell which. Their tones blurred together. Old men, cowed men. We don't need proof, Kaiden replied. We need reason. The pack craves strength. They need to see their alpha protect them, even if from shadows. There was a pause. The creak of a chair. The clink of a cup being set down. And if there is no threat? Another voice asked, hesitant. Kaiden laughed, soft and sharp. Then we give them one. A raided patrol. A staged border skirmish. Something to light the fire. My stomach clenched. My breath came fast and shallow. I pressed my hand against my mouth to stop any sound escaping. Kaiden continued, his tone like poison silk. Ronan's pack has grown too bold. They respect no boundaries. It's time they remembered their place. And our pack, my pack, will remember who keeps them safe. There it was. The truth laid bare. No honor. No protection. Just ambition. Just control. I felt cold all over, as if the night had seeped into my bones. I had thought Kaiden cruel, but I hadn't known how deep it ran. A chair scraped across the floor inside. I ducked lower, heart racing. By the next moon, Kaiden said, "We'll give them a war they'll never forget." I didn't wait to hear more. I slipped back into the trees, moving fast and quiet, though my mind screamed with every step. The wind whipped through the branches, carrying the scent of smoke from the torches. The shadows of the houses stretched long behind me, as if trying to pull me back. But I ran, as much as one can run when trying not to be heard. I didn't stop until the elders' homes were far behind, hidden by the forest. Only then did I lean against a tree, catching my breath, my chest tight, my legs trembling. War. A war built on lies. Kaiden didn't care about the pack. He cared about power, about tightening his grip, no matter who suffered. And I? What could I do? I was nothing in his eyes. A nuisance. A weakling. A girl with no rank, no voice. But I had the truth. And that, I realized, was more dangerous than any title. The way back to my cabin felt endless. The woods seemed darker now, the wind harsher, the night colder. The lantern's faint glow from my window was the only warm thing in sight, a tiny promise of safety in a world that felt suddenly more dangerous than ever. I slipped inside, closing the door softly behind me. The room was as I'd left it, small, poor, but mine. I sank onto the bed, the weight of what I'd heard crashing down on me. Mara stirred in her sleep in the corner, mumbling something I couldn't make out. I didn't wake her. Let her have her peace a little longer. I stared at the flickering lantern, its light wavering like my own resolve. But as I sat there, the fear in my chest began to burn into something else. Something sharper. If Kaiden wanted to build a war on lies, then maybe it was time someone spoke the truth. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? My mind churned with Kaiden's words, with the weight of what I now carried. The truth was dangerous, but keeping it locked inside me felt even more so. When dawn broke, pale and cold, I was no closer to knowing what to do. But as the sun set again, staining the sky with bruised purples and deep reds, a knock came at my door. 3 soft raps. A pause. Then one more. The pattern we used as children to say, friend. I opened it to find a stranger. A young man, a little older than me, lean and watchful. His cloak smelled of river mist and pine, and in his hand he held a strip of leather marked with the symbol of the crescent moon, Ronin's crest. He said nothing, only pressed the token into my palm and inclined his head toward the woods. A summons. My heart raced. I should have been afraid. But instead, I felt the faint flicker of hope. The forest seemed thicker that night, as if the trees themselves conspired to hide us. The air was cool and damp, heavy with the scent of moss and water. I moved as quietly as I could, my ears straining for sounds beyond my own heartbeat. When I reached the river, the moon had risen high, casting a silver path across the black water. The stones along the bank glistened as if polished by the night. And there he stood. Ronin. He was taller than I'd imagined, broad-shouldered, but with a stillness that spoke of control rather than brute force. His dark hair was tousled by the breeze, and his eyes, gray as steel, fixed on me as I approached. He said nothing at first, letting the night speak. The river whispered between us, and the rustle of the leaves filled the silence. "You came," he finally said, his voice low but steady. "I didn't think I had a choice," I replied, the truth slipping out before I could stop it. A corner of his mouth twitched, not quite a smile, but close. "Everyone has a choice, Sophie, even when it feels like they don't." I folded my arms, trying to steady myself. "Why summon me?" I could ask the same. His gaze didn't waver. "Why did you risk coming here? You could have stayed silent. Safe." I let out a bitter breath. Safe? There's no such thing anymore, not when Kaiden's planning a war built on lies. Ronin's eyes darkened, but not with surprise. As if he'd suspected. As if he'd been waiting for confirmation. "So it's true," he said quietly. "He wants blood. And he'll spill his own packs if it gets him what he wants." I hesitated. "Why do you care? You could let him destroy himself." He looked past me, toward the distant line of trees. "Because war doesn't stop at one pack's borders. And because my people deserve better than to be pawns in Kaiden's game." There was a pause, heavy with meaning. The river sang between us. "You see more than I expected," he said at last. I frowned. "What do you mean? You're no pawn either. No Omega content to bow and scrape. You've seen what he is. And you're still standing." His words stirred something in me, something fierce and fragile all at once. No one had ever looked at me like that. Not Kaiden. Not even Liam. I dropped my gaze to the water, watching the moon ripple and break apart on the current. "I don't know what I am anymore. You're someone who can change things." I looked up. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes held mine like a promise. "Alone?" I asked, the doubt thick in my voice. "No." He stepped closer, the stones crunching softly under his boots. "Not if you don't want to be." The tension between us shifted, not gone, but changed. No longer strangers across a divide, but 2 wolves testing the space between. "I don't know if I can trust you," I admitted. He nodded, as if that was fair. "And I don't ask you to, not yet. I offer this, information, protection if I can give it, and my word that I want peace more than war." His hand, scarred across the knuckles, extended between us. For a moment, I stared at it, the weight of the choice sinking in. And then I took it. His grip was firm, warm despite the night's chill. A pact. A beginning. The river carried our reflection downstream, 2 figures standing together on the edge of something neither of us could yet name. The first light of dawn broke through the trees, soft and pink, washing the forest in a gentle glow. The night's chill still clung to the air, and the grass beneath my feet was slick with dew. I should have felt peace at this hour, the world so still, so quiet, but my heart was anything but calm. "Sophie." His voice cut through the silence, sharp and urgent. I froze for a heartbeat, then turned. Liam emerged from the trees like a shadow breaking free of the mist, his hair tousled, his eyes wild with something between fear and fury. I didn't move as he approached, but I could feel the tension rolling off him. "What were you thinking?" he demanded, his voice low but fierce. "Meeting with Ronan? Are you trying to get yourself killed?" I crossed my arms, holding his gaze. "I could ask you the same. Are you trying to kill me? Because that's what Kaiden's war will do." His jaw clenched. "It's not that simple." "No, Liam," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. "It is. Kaiden's stirring up a war on lies, and you're standing by, letting it happen." He shook his head, stepping closer. His breath misted in the morning air. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly." The words spilled out before I could stop them. All the hurt, all the betrayal. You chose her, you chose him, you chose them over me, over what's right. The look in his eyes shattered me more than his silence ever could. Guilt, regret, but no resolve. "Sophie, I didn't want this." His voice cracked, softer now. "I didn't want any of this. But I have a duty, to the pack, to the bonds I've made." "To Alora," I said, bitter and raw. He winced as if I'd struck him. "It's not like that, isn't it?" I challenged, taking a step back, putting space between us. "You stand beside Kaiden, you wear his mark, you take his daughter's hand. What else would you call it?" Liam ran a hand through his hair, turning away for a moment as if searching for an answer among the trees. The sun edged higher, casting long rays through the canopy, making the mist glow. "I'm trying to keep the peace," he said finally, his back still to me. "If I defy Kaiden, what happens then? The pack fractures. We fall into chaos. I'm trying to protect you." The words might have meant something once. But not now. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. "I don't need your protection, Liam. Not like this. Not at this cost." He faced me again, his face drawn, older than I remembered. "I don't want to lose you." "You already have." My voice was quiet, but it felt like the loudest thing I'd ever said. For a long moment, we just stood there. The morning wrapped around us, soft and indifferent, as if the world didn't care that my heart was breaking all over again. Liam's shoulders sagged. He took a step forward, reaching out and stopped, hand falling to his side. "I'm sorry," he said, and I believed he meant it. But sorry wasn't enough. Not anymore. I shook my head, feeling strangely calm now, as if the storm inside had passed and left only clear skies. "So am I." He hesitated, as if there were more to say, but the words never came. Finally, he turned and walked back into the trees, his figure fading into the mist like a ghost. I stood alone on the edge of the forest, watching the sun climb higher, painting the sky in shades of rose and gold, and for the first time, I felt free. The old barn stood at the edge of the forest, leaning like a tired giant, its beams weathered and cracked, its roof patchy with holes that let in shafts of pale afternoon light. Dust hung in the air, catching the fading sun in golden streams. The scent of old wood and earth filled my lungs as I stepped inside. One by one, they came. Young wolves, omegas like me, and a few low-ranking betas, slipped through the door, their eyes wary, their movements cautious. They glanced at each other in uncertainty, but they came. That alone gave me hope. Mara was the last to enter, hugging herself as if the walls of the barn might collapse on us at any moment. "Sophie," she whispered, voice trembling, "what are we doing?" "If Kaiden finds out, he will find out if we fail," I said, cutting her off gently but firmly. "Which is why we can't fail." I stepped onto an old crate so I could see their faces, and so they could see mine. My heart pounded, but my voice was steady. "I know you're afraid, so am I. But we can't let that stop us. Kaiden is leading this pack to ruin. He wants a war that will kill our brothers, our sisters, our friends. All for his pride. All for power." They shifted, exchanging uneasy glances. "We are nothing to him," I continued. Pawns on a board he thinks he owns. But what if we don't play the game? What if we refuse to be used? A murmur rippled through the group. One of the younger betas, a boy named Kellen, barely older than a pup, raised his chin. What can we do? We're no match for Kaiden's warriors. I met his gaze. We don't need to fight them. We need to show the pack the truth before Kaiden blinds them with lies. And how do we do that? Someone else asked, doubt heavy in their tone. I took a breath, letting the moment settle. The barn seemed to hold its breath with us. We interrupt the next council, I said. When Kaiden announces his plan for war, we speak out. We tell the pack what we know, what I heard, and we won't be alone. Mara stared at me, horrified. Sophie, you can't. Kaiden will silence you before you get a word out. No. My voice was firm, my resolve burning through the fear. Ronan will be there. I'll send word. He's waiting for a chance to stop this before it starts. He'll stand with us, as proof. The group fell silent, the weight of the plan sinking in. I'm not asking you to fight Kaiden's warriors, I said quietly. I'm asking you to fight for the truth. For the pack. For the future we deserve. The barn creaked, the sound like an old beast waking. Outside, the sun slipped behind a bank of clouds, casting the world in dim gray light. Mara's eyes filled with tears. He'll kill you. I stepped down from the crate and took her hands in mine. Then let him try. But I won't let him win without a fight. She stared at me for a long moment, and then slowly nodded. I'll help, she whispered. And, one by one, the others nodded too. We stood together in the barn, the dust swirling around us like ghosts, the scent of old wood grounding us in that moment. My heart ached with fear, but beneath it a flame of determination burned brighter than it ever had before. That night, as I lay awake staring at the cracked ceiling of my cabin, I thought of the plan. Of the risk. Of everything that could go wrong. But I also thought of Kaiden's face when the truth was spoken in front of all. And I thought of the pack. Of a future where we could be free of his lies. Let it come, I told myself. Let the storm break. I'm ready. The midday sun burned high, casting sharp light across the clearing where the pack had gathered. The familiar circle of stone that formed the council grounds seemed smaller today, crowded with bodies, heavy with anticipation. Flags bearing Kaiden's crest, a snarling wolf's head, fluttered in the breeze, but even they couldn't drown out the feeling that something was about to break. I stood at the edge of the clearing, hidden among the trees for a moment longer, watching. Kaiden stood at the center, tall and imposing, his voice carrying as he addressed the pack. His silver cloak rippled in the breeze like a banner of his power. We stand on the edge of war, he declared, and the crowd murmured, fear and excitement mingling. A war we did not choose, but a war we must finish. The Nightfang pack has insulted our borders, threatened our peace. We will strike before they can strike us. Lies. All of it. Lies I couldn't let stand. I stepped forward. My legs shook, but my voice was strong as I called out. That's not true. A hush fell. Heads turned. Dozens of eyes found me as I strode into the circle, my heart beating so loudly I thought they could all hear it. Kaiden's gaze locked onto mine, cold and dangerous. Sophie, he said, as if my name were a curse. This is not your place. I lifted my chin. It is today. The pack watched, caught between confusion and fascination. I could feel their tension, their uncertainty. You speak of war as if it's forced upon us, I said, my voice ringing out clear. But you seek it, you've planned it. You would spill blood on false claims, for power, not protection. A ripple ran through the crowd, the first crack in his hold on them. Kaiden's face darkened. You accuse your Alpha? You risk everything with your treasonous tongue? I risk more by staying silent. For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. And then, movement at the edge of the clearing. Ronan. He stepped into view, his dark cloak stirring around his boots, his steel-gray eyes sweeping the assembly. Behind him, a handful of his wolves fanned out, watchful but not threatening. Gasps rose from the crowd. Kaiden spun toward him. "You dare enter our ground uninvited?" Ronan's voice was calm, but carried strength. "I come not as an enemy, but as witness. To speak the truth. If your pack will hear it." I took another step forward, standing shoulder to shoulder with Ronan now. "You don't have to believe me," I said, sweeping my gaze across the faces of my packmates. "But believe him. He came in peace. Kaiden would have you believe otherwise, to suit his hunger for war." The pack erupted in murmurs. Doubt. Fear. Anger. Kaiden raised his hand for silence, his voice sharp as a blade. "Do not listen to this traitor. She would see us weak, divided, easy prey for those who covet what we have built." "She would see you free of his lies," Ronan countered, his tone measured. "Kaiden fears peace, because in peace he cannot control you as he wishes." The wind picked up, sending leaves swirling into the circle, scattering them at our feet like pieces of a broken game. Kaiden's fists clenched at his sides. His voice dropped to a growl. "I will not let you poison my pack." And then, chaos. Some of Kaiden's closest loyalists surged forward, their faces twisted in rage. But others, betas, omegas, those who'd long harbored doubts, stepped between us and the attackers, blocking their path. Voices rose. Accusations flew. The clearing became a storm of tension. No blood spilled yet, but the threat of it thick in the air. I stood my ground, heart hammering, watching as the pack fractured before my eyes. "Enough!" I shouted, my voice cutting through the noise. "Is this what you want? To tear each other apart while Kaiden laughs? You have a choice, all of you. Stand for truth or stand for his lies." A long moment passed. The wind howled through the trees, tearing more leaves free, sending them spinning across the stone. Kaiden's control slipped with every heartbeat. I saw it in his face. Fury, yes, but fear beneath it. Fear that the pack no longer followed as blindly as before. Ronan raised his hand, palm out in peace. "There is no need for violence. Let your hearts decide what is right. Let truth guide you, not fear." The pack stilled, the storm breaking into uneasy quiet. Kaiden's chest rose and fell with ragged breath. His power, built on dominance, on force, was crumbling as eyes turned from him to each other, questioning. The circle had broken. His grip had slipped. And though the battle was not won, I knew then, the tide had turned. The clearing held its breath. The storm of voices had died, leaving only the rustle of leaves in the breeze and the quick, unsteady thrum of my own heart. Kaiden stood like a beast cornered, his chest heaving, his eyes wild with fury and desperation. The pack watched, caught between fear and hope, waiting to see what would come next. And then it happened. A flash of movement. One of Kaiden's loyalists, a hulking brute named Derek, lunged at me from the side. His teeth bared, his hands claws. A last, frantic strike to silence me once and for all. There was no time to run. No time to cry out. Liam was faster. He threw himself between us, his body slamming into Derek's with a sickening crack. The two went down hard, a tangle of limbs and rage. "Liam," I shouted, rushing toward them as the pack erupted into shouts and gasps. Derek's fury was blind now. He drove his blade, a hidden dagger glinting in the sun, deep into Liam's side before others could pull him back, drag him off. Liam collapsed into my arms, his blood warm and shocking against my skin. "No, no, no," I whispered, pressing my hands to the wound as if I could hold him together by sheer will. His eyes found mine. The pain was there, but also peace, as if at last he'd made the choice he'd long feared. "I'm sorry," he breathed, his voice faint as the wind. I should have stood with you sooner." Tears blurred my vision. "You're with me now." He managed a weak smile. "Always were stronger than me." And then he was gone. For a long moment, the world was silent, except for the whisper of the leaves overhead. Kaiden stood frozen, his face pale beneath his anger. the reality sinking in that even those closest to him had begun to turn. The pack saw it too. The shift. The breaking of his power. I rose slowly, my hands stained with Liam's blood, my heart heavy with grief but steady with purpose. "Enough," I said, my voice carrying across the clearing. "No more lies. No more fear. This ends now." Kaiden's snarl was hollow, his strength crumbling before the eyes of those he once ruled. Ronan stepped forward, his presence calm but firm. "Kaiden, you've lost. Leave this place, or face the justice of the pack you betrayed." For a heartbeat, I thought Kaiden might strike out, might choose death over surrender. But then his shoulders sagged, and without a word, he turned and disappeared into the trees, alone and defeated. The clearing was still again, the pack watching me, waiting. I felt the weight of their eyes, not as a burden this time, but as a call, a recognition. I reached beneath my tunic and drew out the amulet I had worn since I was a child. My father's, the symbol of our family, of a line Kaiden had tried to erase. I held it up, the metal glinting in the clean light of the sun that now broke fully through the clouds. "This," I said, my voice strong, "is who we are. Not Kaiden's pack of fear and bloodshed, but a family, a people. We can choose better, we will choose better." Faces softened, heads nodded, and slowly, one by one, wolves and humans alike lowered their heads. Not in submission, but in respect. Ronan moved to stand beside me, his gaze steady on mine. "You've done what few could, Sophie. You've given them back their future." I looked at him, and for the first time in a long time, I felt the weight of possibility instead of chains. "And now?" I asked. He offered a small, genuine smile. "Now we build. Together, if you'll have me." I thought of Liam, of the price we'd paid. And I nodded. Together, the pack dispersed slowly, quietly, like a storm fading into calm. The clearing was ours again, no longer a place of shame, but of choice. I stood alone for a moment longer, the amulet warm in my hand, the breeze carrying the scent of pine and the promise of something new. And for the first time I looked my pack in the eye as an equal, as someone who had found her voice, no longer a pawn, no longer a victim, a leader. The leaves whispered above, carrying Liam's memory and my vow into the clean, open sky. This was our price for freedom, and I would honor it every day that followed.